A numbing movie. Why is everyone on the Ledger bandwagon? Yes, it was an enjoyable performance. But keep in mind how juicy the role was and that any number of actors could have given equally enjoyable performances. I love dark movies. Pan's Labyrinth, Apocalypse Now, but Dark Knight isn't dark. It's sick. If you like horror movies like Hostel and Saw 3, maybe this'll be up your line, but come on. A cell phone stitched into a guy's stomach and rigged to explode crosses a line for me. There's no point, no message, just sick, disturbing sadism. Batman was used as a guise to draw us into a slasher movie. With Heath Ledger dying, the advanced PR worked fabulously. If not for the PR, this movie would draw flies. The PG-13 rating only goes to prove that the motion picture ratings can be bought. Do not bring any children to this bloodfest. I'm baffled by all the superlatives being showered on this film. I'm a huge fan of Nolan, Bale, Caine, Oldman, Gyllenhaal, but really, this film was completely uninvolving. Bruce/Batman was given short shrift in this screenplay. It's the wonderful Christian Bale who breathes soul into every minuscule opportunity he is given. There is no backstory, no fleshing out of any character except Harvey Dent. The film starts as if we've caught it in mid-low, and honestly, this hype over Ledger's performance is too inflated. For me, Tim Burton's Penguin is the greatest villain in the Batman series. Evil, tragic, repelling, and attracting at the same time. Jack Nicholson's Joker could have done with an editing job, but my goodness, the portrayal itself was one of brilliance and insane originality. Ledger was an actor of great promise, but the praise over his Joker seems out of perspective and proportion. This edition of Batman was a case of overkill, ODing on the dark element, not a single touch of genuine wit, overindulging on the philosophizing and the explosions/mayhem. All in all, a superhero film that takes itself too seriously. It's tragic that some of the finest young directors, Bryan Singer, etc., are frittering their prime years away on superhero franchises. Christopher Nolan, please come out of your Batcave black hole and give us something worthwhile to watch, again. Wow. Words cannot even describe how incredibly awful this movie was. The acting was poor, mediocre at best. Yes, that is including Heath Ledger's supposedly Oscar-worthy performance as the Joker. The plot was simply terrible and amazingly uneven, as if no one had bothered to make a final edit. It is one of the slowest and most boring movies I have ever seen. I have never walked out of a movie before, but I was highly tempted with this mess, checking my watch every few minutes before the 1-hour mark in what ended up being a 2.5-hour movie that seemed oh so much longer. I found that the best part of the film was when the credits started rolling. Whilst Michael Bay's blockbuster movies are terrible, at least they are somewhat entertaining. Sadly, I cannot say the same for The Dark Knight. Ignore all the hype and don't be fooled by the trailers which suggest this may be a good film. This movie was plain terrible, a complete train wreck. 1 out of 10. This movie was 1. Way too long. 2. Way too long. 3. Tried to do too much. 4. Made me believe that Jake Gyllenhaal is a more believable love interest than his sister. Sorry, she's just very plain looking and a mediocre actress at best. 5. Lost the dialogue and an overwhelming music score. 6. Had a horrible script. 7. Ledger is the best thing about the film, but no one could live up to the hype. Sadly, he will not be able to reprise this role. 8. Put every good scene in the trailers and fooled everyone by doing so. 9. The people who made this knew it is a stinker and sold it hard on the net. 10. Had an over and over feel to it. I started looking at my watch about 45 minutes into the movie and about every 10 minutes thereafter. I thought it would never end, and then the ending was blah. I have read stuff here about Maggie Gyllenhaal being a better actress than Katie Holmes. Well, she may be, but Katie Holmes was much more believable than she was in the role. She was unwatchable. She ruined the movie for me because no one could believe that she was being fought over by 2 handsome men. I almost puked when the Joker says, "Hello, beautiful," and someone in the theater actually called out, "She's a beast." The first movie was great. This one is just really disappointing. Go see it. I won't have such high expectations again. The honest vote should be a 5, but I lowered it to account for the deluded and blind. I like superhero movies. This is the worst superhero movie I've ever seen. Christian Bale gave the worst performance I've seen from him. Heath Ledger gave a mediocre impersonation of Jim Carrey mixed with Jack Nicholson. His makeup was good, but that's about the best I can say. The movie had nothing to say. The dialogue was bad. The special effects were okay, but nothing special, and there was not an ounce of coolness in the movie. I am completely mystified by the high ratings people give this movie. This movie is no fun. It satisfies the fanboys' desire to have their comic book heroes taken seriously. That's where I think all this fan adulation is coming from. But that totally misses the point. Where's the fun? Where is the superheroic fantasy adventure? The self-referential coyness? This Batman is scary and repulsive. Too long, too muddled, too rushed. It felt like there was enough material for 3 films. While in the Batman suit, Bale speaks like Mick Gruff the crime dog. While this is by far the best of the franchise, that's really not enough. Accolades like best comic movie ever don't really cut it because comic book movies haven't set the bar very high to begin with. The Two-Face plot wasn't fleshed out enough. Good job by Ledger though. Yes, I admit Heath Ledger turned in a very impressive performance. Christian Bale was also good, and there was some excellent technology and special effects. Drawbacks were the combination of it being generally a downer combined with being too long. A hero is someone you're willing to watch go through all kinds of hell as long as he is triumphant in the end. It is depressing that he has to sacrifice virtually everything, including nearly his life, catches the bad guy, and yet still ends up persecuted in the end by an annoyingly over-righteous mindset. The chemistry with Maggie Gyllenhaal is non-existent compared to Katie, and she remains also irritatingly righteous where again, Batman seems to sacrifice absolutely everything in order to help people, and yet it is still not good enough for her. Maggie also is simply not attractive enough for this role. As a comparison, when you walk out of Iron Man, you feel good. When you walk out of Dark Knight, you feel depressed. Cons. Since when did Batman talk like Cookie Monster? I couldn't even understand what Bale was saying half of the time. Seriously, there's a difference between hiding your real voice and Cannibal Corpse tryouts. The plot was terrible, and they modernized Gotham City. Sonar and cell phones. Now he can see like a bat. Really? They didn't even show how and why he could see in the dark using the pre-made sonar-capable bat mask. You've got to be kidding. Then there's the ending, which seemed to me like a huge rush of different movie clips they had saved for outtakes and random lines that, absolutely, had no real meaning, just sentence fragments of what has happened and what will happen. Batman isn't supposed to be looked at like a cop killer, which is what the ending basically insinuated. They ruined Batman, and our culture is eating this crap movie up like imported chocolate. Pros. I did, on the other hand, love how Christopher Nolan hardly used any CGI in the film, which brought realism to the action sequences. CGI is ruining films, and it's great to finally watch one with real objects being destroyed. The only great thing this movie had going for it was Heath Ledger by a long shot. He carried and stole the show in every aspect. At times, he reminded me of Brandon Lee. Truly epic. R.I.P. Batman has a speech impediment. The Joker needs chapstick to nurse his dry lips. The script is sophomoric. The girl anything but sexy. The photography chaotic. Found it so boring I almost fell asleep. For a guy who adored the comic strip when he was a kid, this just doesn't hack it. Why the Dark Knight sucks. It is basically akin to Triumph of the Will. Pure propaganda. Batman equals George W. Bush, or any shady, uber-rich government official. As Bruce Wayne, he must portray himself as a spoiled, bumbling fool, who boozes and womanizes and is just a big walking joke. As Batman, he can use any kind of destructive method to take down the bad guy. In this case, the Joker is often called a terrorist, including using billions of dollars of Wayne Enterprises money to secretly implant 3D sonar imaging devices into a wave of new cell phones that flood the market and consequently give him the ability to create a 3D map of the city that can locate and track anyone. His closest friends, who know his secret identity, think this tracking map is unethical, but he justifies it by saying that he must use any means necessary to take this one down. Does any of this sound familiar? Besides all of this, the movie feels like that 15-minute montage of superheroic feats from every first superhero movie, stretched out to 2.5 hours. It starts out too talky with a bunch of mob bosses, among them Eric Roberts, wriggling out from under D.A. Harvey Dent in court and throws a few unnecessary storylines up in the air that don't get resolved until much later, and poorly at that, then strings together action set pieces that all seem like leftovers from a die-hard movie for the next 2 hours, then finally wraps it up with characteristically cheesy, the fight will continue dialogue that every superhero movie ends with. So it's boring. Plus, it's poorly done apart from that. Save your money.